Hey, welcome back. We have a wonderful guest for you today. You know, do you ever feel down and out, alone? Feel like you just need to talk to somebody and there just doesn't seem to be anybody to talk to? In this day and age, it's easy to get there. Sometimes a little harder to find the right person. Well, we've found the right person for you today. We have none other than Coach Glow. My name is Vin DeQuino. Gloria Favreau. A
Very
pleasure.
nice. My pleasure
Wonderful
as well.
to have you here. What you do is a very special thing. You reach out to people who need to be heard, and you help them sort things out. This is your passion. Talk to me, Coach Glow, about that passion.
Well, so interesting that you bring up passion, because as I shared with you and Lori earlier, just this morning, I posted on Facebook, my number one passion is helping others. And I know that we hear that a lot today, Vinny, but this has been going on for a very, very long time.
And we do need each other. And there's so many people out there in need of someone who will listen and not necessarily tell you how to live your life, but guide you on a path and take the path with you. And that's what you do. You kind of hold their hands and guide them through. When did all of this start for you? When did you realize that you were a people person?
I'm going to say that it was way back when I was a young child and I was watching my mother talk to community members who would go into her bar and restaurant and tell her their sorrows.
Oh, wow.
And when I would see how much of an impact my mom made on these neighbors, we'll say, I found that, that was something that
you
I
should
might
become
want
a bartender.
Exactly. And then I started in my career as a secretary, and the first few words in the word secretary are secret.
Oh,
and I found that a lot of times I had to cover for the boss, or wasn't really fibbing, but I had to cover.
Yep.
And I found that even my coworkers were coming to me and sharing certain things.
they were
that
realizing you knew how to listen.
I didn't realize what a good listener I was. Sometimes if you ask my husband, he might not agree with that statement, but I learned to listen, and I listened to learn.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. I just found that it not only made an impact on others' lives, but I could see the results. And Vinny, sometimes it's not just being about stuck, as you had mentioned before. Sometimes one of my niches in my practice are empowerment, addictions, and relationships. And I see how individuals change with their addictions. It doesn't have to be alcohol or substance abuse.
And change with time.
It
all
does
of a sudden you
change.
wake up and you look in the mirror and that 16-year-old is 36 and then 46 and 56. And life changes. And sometimes some of those things are out of our hands. And we're not quite ready to deal with them as they hit us on the back of the head.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, Vinny, part of the challenge for most people is that a lot of us come from dysfunctional families, so you're brought up, don't talk about this to anybody. So from childhood to adolescence to an adult, they just carry this excess baggage with them, and then they become adults and they think this is who they are, not realizing that you do not have to be a product of your environment or continue to act out and use your childhood as an excuse. Does that make sense?
It's an amazing realization when you discover that being in a dysfunctional family is the norm.
Exactly.
It really is.
Absolutely. You are 100% correct.
What is a traditional family? I don't even know if that exists anymore. And in America, it's kind of that way, where being different is normal. That's what we do. And you have to find your little niche. You know, where do you fit? Where do you belong? And often we have no idea. We just have no idea where we belong. And it's very helpful to be able to find someone to guide you into the place you belong and to assure you that you're on the right path. So you didn't just all of a sudden say, okay, let me make up the sign, Coach Glow, put it on the front of your house, and have people start coming over. How does this all begin?
Well, fast forward, coming into my career, per
Yeah.
se, I started out as a recruiter and in the staffing industry. And then I ended up interviewing candidates who were going out for jobs. And sometimes they were sharing a lot more information than they needed to
Yeah, right.
when I was interviewing them. So the coaching really started there as far as career coaching. And when I noticed that they were sharing a lot more than I really needed to know, I decided that at that point that there was something else here that I had to offer. That
You decided that you really did need to know those things.
Exactly. And those things, Vinny, are sometimes the issues that prevent us from really shining and becoming the individuals we were meant to be. I always say, reclaim your inner champion. We all have that champion inside of us, but it's all that other excess baggage on those
so busy
issues.
trying to decide what the world is looking at, what the world wants, we forget that it's about what we want and need. We have to be the people that we need to be.
And part of the reason, and I shared this with you earlier about some of the dark chapters that I've had in my life, and I didn't really go into that, but part of the reason, because I wanted to fit in, was I really didn't know who I was. So I was a chameleon.
Yeah.
So if I was with a certain group of people, I would be like them. If I was with someone else, I would try to be like them. So I lost myself. I really didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
So at those periods in my life, in my earlier years, I turned to alcohol to, I guess, help me feel better. And that, of course, just deteriorated in my self-esteem.
And thought it's very easy to fall into those traps, the easy ways out, which of course are never the way out. All it does is put you deeper and deeper into the problem that you had in the first place. So, it's very easy to go into those downfalls, and it's also very difficult to find someone to help you get back out again. And people fall into traps. Alcohol, the couch. They sit on that couch and they watch TV all day long, or they get depressed and refuse to talk to people.
And today it's also addiction to social media.
Oh, absolutely.
I just saw a really interesting video yesterday. Actually, my son had posted it on Facebook, and it was really very good about the generation we have today. And but the adults are just as guilty.
They lock themselves in a room and
you start scrolling on Facebook, and you get
could
stuck in the scroll hole.
Yep. All day, every day. And reading things about people. I mean, it's frightening. My wife is into social media, and there's things on there. I look and I say, why would that person tell everyone about that? And it's like private moments are just thrown out. Years ago, it's, as you say, I grew up in a strict Italian family. What happened there stayed there.
Exactly.
Period. You didn't discuss the family outside of the front door. And today, they discuss everything. I mean, personal, private, and about each other. And they create the persona that they hate. And they blame the world for what they created. And, I think we've already seen that people can get in a lot of trouble tweeting. We won't mention any names, but sometimes just a thought should be that. Just a thought. and you don't share it with the world and then think about it. And kids are posting pictures of themselves and putting information out there. A lot of that is because they need Coach Glow. That's the thing. So what exactly is let's go back to where we were. So then you were doing the job and you were doing all these interviews and you were realizing that people had a lot of things they wanted to share. And what happened then?
So December 4th, 2008, I went to work and I was called in and they said, we got good news and bad news for you. Good news is you've done a great job. Bad news is
you're fired.
Well, and they said it a lot nicer, but it was like, the economy has declined and we need to remove a line of management and it's your line. And you have 45 minutes to empty out your office, take your personal belongings and shut your computer down.
When one door closes, another opens.
And what I did at that moment, I remember I said to them, I'm not going to say thank you, but okay, I get it. And I went in my car, I called up my husband and I said to him, I will never work for anyone else again, because that was the second job I lost in 1 year, 2008.
Wow.
And it was just, I did not want to give an employer the power over what my destination was. And I knew that I had more in me, and in corporate, I was almost stifled sometimes. I couldn't really be Glow.
Right.
So my son says to me, with all this coaching experience you have, why don't you go back to school, get certified, and hang out a shingle? And I said, hang out a shingle? Because again, now I'm going to be my self-employed, and I was so used to being an employee.
Yeah.
But I've always had entrepreneurship in my blood because of my mom. She really was the pillar and the one who that I embraced.
She ran a business, right?
Yeah, she had a bar and restaurant for 30-something years in the South Bronx.
Wow.
So tough woman, single parent, but she did it, and she was my role model. And I didn't realize that that I still had that in me. So here was my opportunity. So I did exactly what he suggested.
Now talk to me about schooling. What kind of schooling does it take to become a coach?
Well, there are different kinds, Vinny, and I'm glad that you asked that in case anybody is watching or listening and has an interest in becoming a life coach. You really need to be careful with some of the institutions or associations out there that say that you will be certified as a life coach. I was very fortunate because I had 20 years experience in corporate America that they took that into consideration. So I took just the certification course, which was a lot less than these traditional life coaching courses. But there are plenty of them out there today. But you have to be careful because like everything else, there's a scam behind one or two. And again, there are some very, very good ones. But you just really need to be very cautious. And then there's a lot of different types of life coaching. Do you want to go from that? Do you want to go into health coaching or a specific niche? And that's why I picked.
So, pretty much you're a counselor. Yeah, but how's it differ? It's deeper?
I'm not, I don't have the credentials of a counselor, not a therapist. Okay. And I think that sometimes when people hear what I do, Vinny, I think they hold off a little bit because I don't.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to know that I'm seeing someone or
right,
talking to someone because exactly, there might be something wrong with me. And I share this at Master Networks all the time too. Yeah. When you go see a life coach, it doesn't mean you're messed up. It means you're fired up about changing something in you, changing something in your life. It's not just about going to a life coach to talk about I've got problems and I have some goals and I'm finding some stumbling blocks. Another thing I say is your life filled with stumbling blocks or building blocks? If you have stumbling blocks in your life, that's when you need to call Coach Glow, because I can help you step by step overcome them and do some exercises together, laugh together, cry together, and celebrate in your achievements. It's not doom and gloom. I'm seeing a life coach. It's exciting. It's fun.
Yeah.
It really is fun. We play a lot of
Yeah.
games
I
at
mean,
my
and
practice.
it's just like an athlete who is not getting the most out of his talents needs a good coach to say, look, you need to approach it this way or that way, or your attitude here isn't working. You need to do this or that. And it's the same way. What you're helping them to do is find the path. Robert Frost wrote a poem called The Road Not Taken. And he never said that one path was wrong and the other was right. He said there were two roads that diverged in a yellow wood, and he had to choose which one. The one that everyone took, or the one that few people took. And he eventually took the road not taken. And it made all the difference in the world. He said, I shall be saying this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. I took the one less traveled by. That has made all the difference. Easy to say, but when you're standing at that fork, you're not sure. Do I quit my job? Do I go for a better job? Do I go for lesser money and more happiness? Do I leave my wife? Do I leave my children? Do I keep drinking? Do I stop drinking? All these forks in the road, they're decisions that help you form the person you need to be. And there are easy ways out. And sometimes you just need to share that with someone. It's not wrong to be lost. It's wrong to not want to be found.
Exactly.
And that's where you come in. So, talk to me about these sessions. You had mentioned earlier that there are actual things that you do. Something about a wheel that you do. Tell me about that.
That's the very first exercise that I do. Not yet with the client. I have what's called a discovery session. So we meet for the first time, and I present you with the Wheel of Life. And the Wheel of Life has 8 different categories on it. So then we slice it up like a pizza pie and cut them up. And then we label them: financial, spiritual, health, friendships, fun, your social life, career. And then we label them, actually the potential client labels them in order of what's the strongest and which are the weakest in their life. And we start to talk about the weakest ones. At the end of that session, we determine whether or not we're a good fit for each other and that we want to work with one another, because they may not like my style.
Yeah.
If it's someone who is not, who seems to be like they need more assistance with mental issues, that is not my specialty. I am not equipped to help someone who may have
or
some
finance.
mental issues.
I mean, it could be a whole financial issue. I mean, you're not a financial advisor either.
Exactly. But all of those issues are what lend itself to where you fall in that wheel. How you feel about yourself. I said this at Master Networks the other day because I was the spotlight, and I gave my showcase, and I said, I can talk to a CEO or to someone who's a janitor or to someone who's in middle management. It doesn't matter what your title is or what you do for a living.
It's where you are in life, not where you are in
If you don't
profession.
feel good about yourself, Vinny, then that's where the work begins.
Right.
And it can be fun. It is fun. So I do the discovery session. We decide, okay, we want to work together. We go over the coaching agreement and how many times we're going to meet a month. And life coaching is not therapy. You don't meet with me for
until the clock rings.
4 years. No, 4 years, 5 years. I know friends that have been in therapy for over 5 years.
Yeah.
And they just keep going there and rehashing their childhood. You need to move on. It's like, where are you today? Where do you want to go?
It's not where have you been, it's where you're going.
It's where are you going? And if you don't know, let me help you. Let me help you find out where it is that you want to go in life.
That makes a lot of sense. So what you do is you help them realize where they are. So they come to you. They probably do most of the talking if you can make that happen, so that they can sort their own things out. That makes sense because that's coaching. And is there a point where you say, hey, you're there, you've arrived? Or do they decide that they now know where they are?
Well, when they first come in, there is a 3-month commitment.
Okay.
You can't make changes in 20 minutes or
Right.
in 2 sessions. So there's the commitment of the 3 months. At the end of the 3 months, we take a barometer and we determine, do you want to go on? And then it's month
Yep.
to month.
Do you feel better? Do you think you're on your path
and
now?
we know if at the end of those
Yeah.
90 days that they've accomplished their goal. And if so, it was great, meeting you. Let's stay in touch.
And that's like 90 days once a week or
3 times a month.
3 times a month. Okay.
3 times a month.
And do you give homework?
Always.
Oh, good. Give me an
Always.
idea of this homework.
Well, there are other exercises that I have in my toolbox. So I send them an email, and it's always questions.
Wow.
Coaching is
So you
all
do have
about
an email connection as
oh,
well.
absolutely, and texting. So life coaching is all about questions, but it's all about results. Because I can ask you all the questions, you can tell me all the answers, but if you're not doing
Yeah.
the footwork, then there are no
For
results.
5 years, I was the director of teacher training for 3 school districts. And one thing I always said to the teachers, that they need to remember their job isn't to give kids answers. It's to teach kids how to create their own questions and then find the answers to those questions. Teachers shouldn't be up there saying, here's the information, you need to memorize it and learn it. What they really need to know how to do is to question history, question life, question knowledge, question where they stand and how they feel about all of this, the things that they see and hear. We're growing up in a tough world. I'm almost afraid to turn on the news because there's always something frightening going on. And what happens is we get caught up in it.
Exactly.
And we can very easily become depressed and fall into an addiction of whatever. So it's good to have someone to talk it through. Did you ever have a situation you couldn't deal with?
Not yet.
Wonderful.
And Vinny, somebody asked me the other day, like, what makes you feel that you're, like, every situation that comes in could be different. So what makes you feel like you're equipped, aside from my certification? Well, at this time in my life, I've been through 1 marriage. I'm on my 2nd marriage, so I've been separated, divorced. There's step-family dynamics. We have multiple ethnicity in my home. I'm 100% Puerto Rican. My husband is Italian and French. My stepsons are Jewish. My brother-in-law is African American. So all that being said, it is, when people come to me, if I cannot or feel that it's not something that I have no problem at all saying, you know what, Vinny, I'm not sure I'm the right person for you.
See, that's wonderful to be able to say that. And
A lot of
sometimes that's
people
what
don't
it is.
say that.
I know. And unfortunately, you're right. There's people out there who will keep at it even though they know it's not working. And that can be harmful. It can be harmful. So I'm glad to hear you say that you understand that you're not the be-all, end-all. Kids used to come to me, I taught school for 35 years. Kids would come to me and they say, Mr. DeQuino, what should I do? I say, rule number 1, I'm not going to give you answers. I'm going to help you find your answers. I won't give you answers, but I might be able to lead you to yours. So remember that. Don't take everything I say as the be-all and end-all. I can be wrong. You have to be right. And they get it. They get it. And some kids just can't get over it. The important thing is to realize we live in a community. People helping people. You need to reach out, and you need to understand that you don't have to do it alone. You don't need that macho nonsense that I can do it alone. Don't give me directions. I'll find my way.
I think the hardest thing for a lot of people is to say 3 words. I need help.
Yeah.
Regardless what area it's in.
Yeah.
Because as you just said, they want to do it
Yeah.
all, and you can't.
No.
You can't.
No. And you can't always run to someone else. You do have to learn how to work through your own problems. And you're not looking for an escape, you're looking for an answer. Mm-hmm. So I think what you do, Coach Glow, is a good thing. You help people find themselves. I know that there's some things that you wanted to be absolutely sure you were going to leave us with. What are those things?
The most important relationship is the one with you. That sums it up. If you don't feel good about yourself, you need to call me.
Coach, there's one person who was born with you and will die with you. That's you. Regardless of who you came into this world with and who else you may leave with, you are the only person who is born with you and will die with you. You have got to live your life.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
Bad news. We are down to the last 30 seconds. You have been wonderful. Keep doing what you're doing. I got your message. I hope they got your message. Don't be afraid to reach out. I want to thank you all for being here today. I want to thank you for understanding that needing a coach isn't a weakness, it's a strength. You need others. Thank you for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. Coach, keep on doing what you're doing. Yeah.